Just 8 minutes ago, the Voyager delivered a terrible message in a deep space that stunned scientists. It's wrong to have never seen them. Now the world is looking at expectations. For nearly 50 years, Voyager has shown a discovery of changing understanding of space beyond our solar system. Be with us for unknown signal transmission. In the early 2010s, something strange happened. The space probe, called EX, found a strange dimming of the energy particles for the sun next to it. It was already very strange, but when experts checked the data again, they realized that things were not added. Heliopause is an invisible border that stops the influence of the sun. The model predicted one thing, but the space predicted another space. Not only did the edge of our solar system change, but also breathe. Then a real shock appeared. Voyager began to detect the changes in heliopause, who challenged logic. The two Voyager probes entered the interstellar space in 2018, but the data could not be horizontal. Scientists were confused. Was the border moving? So what is the cause? There was no clear answer, and each theory only raised more questions. To reveal the secret, NASA plans to launch a new high-end new probe in 2025 to map the space more accurately than before. But Voyager did not fall off. When everything seemed to be following a model, the new anomalies showed that no one predicted. They were no longer a space card. It was to clarify whether humanity actually realized that humanity went beyond the protection layer of the sun. In May 2023, Voyager 1 faced unexpected problems. His articulation and control system, AAC, which maintains smooth work, has begun to malfunction. Instead of transmitting the usual state update, he sent an incomprehensible data that the spaceship suddenly lost communication skills. Strangely, despite the distorted message, everything else seemed normal. The signal was strongly maintained, the voyage dominated the ground, and the scientific tool continued to function correctly. As the robot started to speak in cooking, he still performs his mission. NASA recognized this very seriously. They called an emergency meeting and found out what was wrong. It doesn't mean anything. Why is the AAC system start using a closed computer for more than 3 years? Even the strangers who had to be deployed in safety mode were not activated. As if the spaceship ignored its own rules. The problem was unprecedented. For decades, Voyager has transmitted signals stably with gradual aging and any small failure. But it was completely different. Nearly 50 years later in a deep space, the spaceship suddenly acted as if he had been ordered by an unknown source. There was no clear reason, no identification that could cause anomalies, and there was no way to decide whether it would happen again. Fortunately, NASA engineers found a problem. They sent a team to inform Voyager to switch back to the right computer, and the taboo was suspended. The crisis was at least suffered. But the actual question remained. Why did this happen at first? The best assumption is that Voyager 1 can get a damaged command on another computer. NASA said that this is not a big threat, but it is not to be ignored if the 46-year-old spaceship suddenly begins to act strangely without explanation. Scientists knew that this could not be reported as a simple failure. Deep cosmos is filled with unknown people, and each unexpected event can suggest a much larger mystery that is expected to be released. Voyager far beyond the defensive boundaries of the sun's magnetic field. It is now constantly bombing with a huge unknown space ray. Perhaps one of these rays violated his system. His aging electronics would simply fail. Or perhaps, probably, and perhaps the Voyager will not want to show that this testifies. Susan Dodd, Voyager Mission Project Manager, admitted that it has already lasted much longer than anyone who thinks this spaceship is already possible. This was challenged by the opportunity, a more opportunity than anything else, and continued to work when all the logic said it didn't. Why did the AC system change the computer for the first time? The best theory is that Voyager may have received an inappropriate team from another computer. NASA says this is not a serious threat, but detecting the root cause is important for preventing future uncertainty. This event is a decrease in the problem of travelers faced in interstellar trips. It is no longer protected by the magnetic field of the sun, and is now increasingly exposed to the hostile radiation environment. High-energy particles, such as space beams that can violate computer chips on Earth, can introduce errors that accumulate over time, which can affect the voyage of the board system. Despite these problems, travelers continue to discover innovative. One of the most special conclusions was the weak buzzing sound from almost empty space in the interstellar space. This terrible sound, related to the weakest gas traces, is the teaser of uninterrupted emptiness. Scientists are now better collecting the attitudes of our sun and the huge seas of the universe, adding voyage data to other missions. Since its launch almost half a century ago, travelers have used humanity to use instruments to look away from the depth of the universe wildlife. Nicola Fox, director of NASA Heliophysics Department, has successfully explained their influence. Travelers have collected basic information on the impact of the sun and the solar system. This innovative probe created by plutonium energy consumption has passed ruthless time. The gradual corruption of plutonium leads to a sustainable energy reduction, which means a unique problem. To save power, the NASA engineer systematically turns off the meaningless system. The device heater, once considered necessary, was later considered to be expensive despite the protection of equipment from the extreme cold of the space. It is noteworthy that all 5 tools of the Voyager sensor continue to work with suspected stable temperature, which is much lower than the initial boundary of the design. Scientists were surprised when the heater was disabled in 2019, but the probe continued to work. Their journey has been changed by understanding the scope of the sun in the solar system. Heliopause, once thought of as a smooth and static shield, was not at all peace. Data of spacecraft of sailing and NASA draws another picture, one of the forms that change to unexpected angles and dynamic movements. Heliopause is no longer considered a solid boundary, but is considered a border that is constantly changing liquid and constantly changing. From the moment of opening, Heliopause has captured scientists, but continues to challenge expectations. He refuses to be a limited definition, and his characteristics are converted to season and space conditions. Only the courageous researcher Voyager Spaceline looked at this universe border directly to mankind. NASA, Interstellars, pointed out by physicists at the space farm Eric Zerinstein at Princeton University, enters valuable data and expands the prospects for interaction between the solar wind and interstellar media. The scientists who combine these ideas create a model that shows the heliopass form of a constantly developing rope. The solar wind and interstellar environment are constantly pushed and pulled, forming the boundaries of the sky in endless dances. Voyager mission is more than just observation. This is a journey to the nature of our solar system. When the probe had a chance, they measured the solar wind and current stretched with thin and stunned hands around the planet in a wide range of space gyroscope. This invisible line determines the scope of the sun, which points out the boundary of the heliosphere of the protective shield, which separates us from the interceptive void. Nevertheless, just before this space threshold, the Voyager found a terrible whisper, a weak wing of an interstellar plasma that suggests the mystery.